2001 with Jim and Marcie Frostman at their house, which is, what's the address here?
125 South 5th.
Right, Bayfield, Wisconsin.
Right.
And let's start just, back to the Norwegian roots, Jim. So where did your folks come from?
My father's folks and my father came from Alta Elvabakken, Norge, which is up in the northern part of Norway, up around Hammerfest. And they came over here about 1890, give or take, a little bit. And they settled out at Houghton Point, which is between Bayfield and Washburn. And
there's a Frostman Road.
It's the Frostman Road is the homestead.
And where exactly is that Frostman Road?
It's about 3 miles north of Washburn in there. They farmed and they fished and they raised a pretty good sized family. And on my mother's side, they came from Evansted, Norway, my grandparents, and they settled here in Bayfield.
Uh-huh. Now, what year would this have been? What years?
Back about the same time, 1890, give or take a little bit, one way or the other.
And
my mother was born here. She was born in 90, I believe. And she was born across the street here, down where the ravine is, in a house there that they own.
Is that right?
It was a cute little place.
So, what was your mother's name? I've forgotten.
Evansted.
First name?
Helga Evansted.
And her folks what were their names?
Evansted.
I mean, first names too.
Oh, the first names?
Yeah.
Andreas was, and my grandmother, I remember her as grandma.
Yeah, right.
He was a carpenter in Bayfield,
Mm-hmm.
and he worked on the house that Mary Rice has.
Is that right?
Yeah.
The Night House.
Yeah. Pardon?
The Night House.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He helped build that place. In fact, he took scraps of wood from the floor, the parquet floor,
Mm-hmm.
and he made a little jewelry box for my mother.
No kidding.
Yeah, cute little thing. Well, that wound up with one of my uncles got it for. Oh, we won't go into that. For his daughter.
Yeah.
But and then he died. When was it? In 1880 or 1890?
Your mother was about 8, I think.
Yeah, in the late
Oh.
1800s. And he is buried here in Bayfield.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, in the house that they built is where Pavelas live right now. That was their home. Other than the one down here,
On 4th Street.
yeah.
Right. And then what about on your dad's side? What was your grandfather's name and grandmother's on that side?
August Frostman.
Mm-hmm.
And Grandma again. And they settled at Houghton, like I said there. They farmed and fished, and he worked in the quarry also.
Mm-hmm.
And they lived there until they died, both of them in the house that they had built on the farm there.
Right. And then what about your folks?
My folks, yeah, they, well, years back, my dad fished here when he was a boy,
Mm-hmm.
up until he did. Then they moved up to Virginia and worked in the, my dad was on the railroad up there for a while. And then from there they moved out to North Dakota and farmed by Sharon, North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
They had a farm out there. And when Grandpa Frostman died, they moved back here to run the farm.
I see.
And that's how they got back in the area here. And from there they went back into the fishing. Father
Right.
fished and sailed.
Right. And what were their names?
My mother and dad,
Yeah.
Ole and Helga.
Good Norwegian names.
Norwegian names.
And how did they meet?
I'll be darned if I know. They met.
They met. Huh?
Yeah.
Were they the same age, basically? or-
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're 2 years apart.
hmm So when were they born?
Pa was born in 1888, and my mother was born in 1890.
hmm
She was born right here in Bayfield.
Right.
My mother.
And did they live their whole lives here then?
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So they're up on the hill?
They're up on the hill.
Yeah. So the Frostman roots go deep here in this
They
part
do,
of the
yes.
world. Yeah.
That they do.
And what did your father do then his whole life? And your mother? I mean, they came back to run the farm.
They came back to run the farm, and then he started fishing here again.
hmm
And basically, while he sailed for a while through the Depression, and then they fished mostly all the time.
And what was the name of his boat back those days?
The Ione, named after my sister.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
And was that a tug? Or
That was
that
a
an
tug.
open-
It was built here in Bayfield by Evan Christensen
Mhm.
and Frank Mulkey.
Uh-huh.
Built the boat. It was one of the biggest fish tugs built here around that time.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. There was bigger ones that were here. Like Booth had a big one.
Right.
Batan's had a big tug. Yeah, and then after that, the two of them guys split up and they each built boats in their own. I guess they couldn't get along together too good.
Is that right? And where did he fish out of?
Out of Bayfield. And we had a place on Stockton Island
Right.
that we spend the summer months out there.
And who all was on Stockton at that time?
Well, when I was growing up, my dad, Ole, and Les Cornell had a place out there, and my brother, John, and Orville Powers at the dock, and that was their fishing camp.
Right. So they'd be out there all summer then.
Yeah,
Yeah. So as a kid, you were out there.
I was out there every summer.
It must have been great.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, Marcie, let's catch up with you. Let me get the focus here. Let me make sure we're all. So when did your ancestors come over to this, and from where?
My mom's mother and dad came from Sweden, but they came through Canada and then down to Birch Lake, where they settled. And he was a carpenter. And my mom was born down there, and she only spoke Swedish until she was about 9 when she started school.
Mm-hmm.
Then she had to learn to speak English.
Oh boy.
So
And what were their names, your grandparents?
grandparents were Elsie and Eric Wainert. And mom's name was Ethel. And she had 4 brothers and 1 sister. And they were raised, like I said, in Birch Lake, and then they moved to Ashland.
Where's Birch Lake?
It's down, I'm not exactly sure, but it's down around Mason, somewhere in that area.
So south of Ashland.
Grandview, down that area somewhere. And Dad's folks came from Canada, and they came down to Washburn. And Grandpa was he worked in the lumbering, and they stayed in Washburn. My dad was born in Washburn,
Mm-hmm.
and Dad worked at DuPont, and he had all kinds of odd jobs. And Grandpa's name was Mike, and Grandma's name was Marceline. That's who I was named after.
Now, is that your given name?
Yep.
Marceline?
Mm-hmm.
How do you spell that?
Marceline, Marcelline.
Right.
and that was their last name was Cousineau. So,
And what kind of a ethnic?
French.
French. Oh, okay. So you're French Swedish
Yep,
and got mixed up with a Norwegian.
that's right.
Heck of a combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know where they met either. It's Mom worked in the nursing home for a while after the three of us were all grown.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, Dad worked at DuPont and all kinds of other odd jobs.
So there weren't any fishermen in your family then?
No fishermen,
Yeah.
just lumbermen and
Right.
carpenters.
Right. And who are your siblings, your brothers and sisters?
I have two sisters,
And
Jacqueline and Catherine.
and where are they?
One is in Arizona and one's in Nevada.
So they took off out of here.
Yeah, well, they were around here for a good many years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the jobs disappeared, so they moved on.
Right.
So, but there was just the three of us, and I stayed here
Now, where did you grow up? Where's your house?
in Washburn, down on Bigelow Street.
Mm-hmm.
They called it Slab Town.
That's right. Yeah.
Across the tracks.
Across the tracks,
track,
yeah. Yeah.
And then how did you guys meet then?
Down here at the roller skating rink.
Which was where?
It was a pavilion
The
down
pavilion was the roller skating.
about
Right.
55 years ago.
Oh my God. Was it love at first sight or?
I guess.
Oh, you got a visitor here. We'll take a break here.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, where were we? How you met? You met at the roller rink.
Yeah.
Now, how old were you?
About 16, 15, 16. And he's not that much older, so.
So you dated then
Uh-huh.
in high school?
Yep.
Now, what, you must have been going to Washburn
Yeah.
School, and you were going here, Gemma.
Yeah.
Right. And then when did you get married?
November.
November 1949.
Yep.
So that's
That's 51, going on 52 years now.
Yeah.
stayed together all this time.
Yeah, we did.
So back to your family, Marcie.
Okay.
So you're on one side you're French, the other side Swedish. Now, where
Right.
did the French come from?
They came from Canada. Where if they came over from France or that, I don't know. As far as, I think they came from Canada. And my daughter looked up some information one time in Washburn Courthouse, and I think they were born up in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I know Grandma was a school teacher up there. So, but what kind of schooling she had is,
Yeah.
I have no
I
idea.
wonder what brought them down here.
I don't know if it was just the lumber or what. But they lived in Washburn there. Actually, they lived right across from where Sandy's Log Cabin restaurant is. There was a great big box type house, which is gone now.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, for as long as I could remember.
Right. And what did your folks do? Again,
Dad worked at DuPont.
and what kind of work?
He drove truck.
Mm-hmm.
He drove snow plows and buses and those kind of things more so than anything else. And my mother really didn't go out and work until us kids were all grown. And she worked at the nursing home in Washburn.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'd travel in between the three of us and visit after Dad died.
Right. And so after you were married, where did you move to?
Right here, upstairs.
And your folks were here, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that right?
There's an apartment upstairs, and there still is an apartment upstairs.
So you were upstairs,
Uh-huh.
and they were down
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
That must have been interesting.
At times, yeah.
You know what two women are like in the same house.
And then we moved downtown. Then
Whereabouts?
we moved out on the farm. We had where McCarty has his farm there. We had that for about 7 years, and then we went downstate, sold that, and went downstate, and he managed an apple orchard down there.
What year would that have been?
I think it was 57. I think.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Well, was the fishing just no good here then, or?
Yeah,
There
it
was
was.
nothing.
It was done. There was nothing.
And then there was a steel strike, and you couldn't find work anywhere.
Did you ever go up to and work in the mines?
No,
No,
never did.
because quite a few did from here.
Yeah, a lot of them did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda.
No, the ag agent was the one that called you about
Yeah,
that job.
We had a little orchard here, and we run that, and then the ag agent from Washburn called, and his job was open down there, so we decided we'd better take it. The pay was pretty good, and so we went down and looked at it, and we took the job.
Mm-hmm.
We were there for 3 years working under him, and then he sold,
Uh-huh.
and we worked about 1.5 years for the fellow that bought the place, and then we decided we're going to go to Alaska.
Yeah, that's
Is that right?
Yeah. So,
So by now we're in the early 60s.
yeah. Well, DuPont was hiring at that time too, so I stopped in and talked to him up here and gave me an application, and got a job, and we moved back up here. Well, we were still going to go to Alaska that fall when DuPont closed down like they did. You know, they'd hire a bunch for summer, and then I thought we could get the family moved back up here again, settle down,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd move on to Alaska. Well, DuPont run for 5 years after that. They had a good job there, a real good job, good pay, everything, and they called us all into the office there one day on our shift and informed us that the plant was going to close down. But we could move to different plants in the country if we wanted to.
Right.
Well, then her parents were getting pretty old at that time, and shucks, we'll try fishing again.
Mm-hmm.
So there
Now,
was
what year was this then?
That about 70,
Uh-huh.
right around there, and so
Now, what'd you do at DuPont?
I was a first-class operator in the acid line.
What did you do? What's that mean?
I run all of the acid buildings plants out there. I was trained to run like the NAC, the sulfuric acid plant, and
this is all in the interest of making explosives.
yeah,
Right.
They made TNT out there.
Mm-hmm.
They did make dynamite at one time too.
Right.
So
Oh, we got another visitor. Okay, so we're at DuPont, and what were your jobs again?
I was a shift operator, shift brake operator in the acid line. I run the different buildings and phases of making acid for manufacture of TNT, which was nitric acid. And
So you oversaw people who were doing that, or were you actually on the working line?
I was on the working line.
On the working line,
Yeah.
okay.
And yeah, then I worked or run the ammonium nitrate plant. So I filled in during the week in all of the different buildings, which were kind of complicated.
I'll bet. And plus, you couldn't make a mistake. Right?
You couldn't make a mistake, or out the gate you went. And very dangerous. You
Now-
made strong nitric and strong sulfuric, and that was mixed together to make TNT.
And how was the pay then?
The pay was excellent.
You
Top
get
pay.
you get benefits and stuff
Yeah,
too.
all the benefits.
So it was a good job to have in
Yeah.
for this area.
But
Had
we,
good hospitalization, that paid everything, and good retirement program. what else?
I don't know, but I had to sew your pants back
Yeah.
together more often.
They kind of fell apart on me from the
It would
acid.
From the acid and everything.
Yeah, we just eat the threads.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, we were wearing wool clothing in the middle of the summer, hotter than heck.
To protect your skin.
Yeah, well,
Huh?
that stuff didn't fall apart. Cotton would just, within a couple of days, cotton would just fall right off.
Is that right?
Yeah. So a very safe place to work.
Yeah, I was going to say a hazard. You get hazard pay for that.
Yeah, but the benefits were good.
And what were you doing, Marcie, at this time?
Taking care of kids.
So what kids?
Our own kids.
So tell me about the kids now. When were they born and what their names are and stuff?
Okay. Carolyn is the oldest. She was born in 1950. Janice was born in 1953. Jimmy was born in 1955. Who was it? Connie was born in June of 57. Bill was born in 1960. Karen in 64 and Eric in 67.
No, I lost count. How many is that?
7.
7 kids.
Yeah.
No wonder you weren't doing anything to take care of those kids. So it was pretty much
Yeah.
in succession.
After Eric was born, I did go to work for a little while over at Munsingware, and then I went to work down at Maggie's, not Maggie's at that time, Junior's, and he stayed home and babysat
Uh-huh. Where was Munsingware? Where
in
was...
Ashland.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay. So what were you doing there?
I was running a sewing machine.
Hmm.
So
When would that have been?
Eric was about a year, maybe 70, 60, 68, 69, somewhere in there.
Hmm.
And then I did a lot of sewing at home for others. Still do. But then I started, I bought the sail loft. And we ran that for a while. And then fishing went bad, so he came in with me. He had to try the sewing machine the one day with his work boots on. He got it so jammed up it took us 3 hours to undo it. But he learned, he worked, and he took care of all the sails. And then we decided to sell the sail loft, but we sold the whole sail loft, but we kept the canvas part, so we don't do sails, but we do canvas work here in the basement for sailboats. And
Right. You sold it to Tim Olson. Right?
yeah, we sold it to Tim Olson.
Yeah.
So, but we do it.
Were you always up in that same space?
No, I was down where the ferry docks are now. There's that long building before it was rebuilt.
Right.
We were in there.
Oh, you were.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you start the sail making?
Oh gosh.
You started way back when sailing started here in the yard.
Yeah,
Fix-
that's
repairing
right.
sails.
I did some sails here at home for
That
a long
was
time.
back in the early 50s.
Yeah, but then it got the sails got too heavy for the machines I had, so I quit that. No, but now we've got 2 heavy-duty machines or industrial machines.
Right.
So
So you haven't retired yet.
no, you can't retire. You can't just quit.
You can't. What would you do?
But that's it. What
Yeah.
would we do? Argue with each other, maybe.
Well, did you ever get to Alaska?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, we left Bayfield to go to Ketchikan to look for a job up there. That was the first year we were at DuPont back here. And we booked the train and we got up to Winnipeg and the trains went on strike. So they put us on a express bus all the way across Canada.
What a ride.
It was an awful ride, day and night.
Oh, but the first one wasn't so bad. We had the whole bus to ourselves.
Yeah, all night. I went in the back and slept.
And why were you going up there this time then?
We were going to go up there for a vacation and also to look around and see how the work was up there.
Hmm.
And
When would this have been then?
I'd been about 65,
No, it
68.
was after Eric. Eric
Yeah.
was just a baby. About 68.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Because things were just nothing happening here for fishing.
No.
No,
And
the
that-
fishing was...
We had a friend
dead.
up there that was a captain on one of the ferries, and he told him to get up here. He says you can get on the ferry system.
Hmm.
That's what he was looking for.
So we looked at that and kind of weighed the two of them together, and the jobs that we had. We were working at DuPont at that time, and the job we had at DuPont was good. The pay was good. And so we decided to stay here instead of moving up there.
Right.
But on the way home, we did get on the train.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful ride.
It sure was.
We were in the dome car,
Mm-hmm.
brand new car, beautiful quarters on it, stateroom, all the way across Canada.
Can't beat that.
No, God, no, I guess not.
Well, I think we got the stateroom just by accident. They didn't kick us out.
Now, when you came back here, were you now still in this house?
Yeah.
Yeah. And your folks were still alive then, or
No.
no? They're gone.
No, they're gone.
So you're in here with all your kids.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
a house full.
I guess so, because this is not that big of a house. And so when you came back, you said at some point DuPont closed her down.
Yeah,
When was that?
right around 70 in that area there.
So you came back from Alaska and worked at DuPont maybe for another year or two,
Yeah,
and then they closed it down.
yeah.
And then is that when you went into
That's
fishing?
when I went back fishing.
Back fishing.
Yeah, there was a market for chubs at that time, and
That's right. Bud Bodine was talking about
yeah,
that.
so and the price was fair on them. There were a lot of chubs. So we decided to settle down here and fish for a living, which we did. We
Yeah.
done real good the first few years of it, but then the administration kind of changed down here at the DNR office and pushed us out of business, and there we sat.
Well, you were still on the lake when I first met you in the early
Yes.
80s.
Uh-huh.
So you fished till when then? I forget now when you...
I can't
Got out of it.
remember the dates on it now.
How long has the boat been gone?
Yeah,
5 years?
5, 6 years now? 5 years?
Something like that.
So you fished until the mid-90s then,
Yeah.
Yeah, up in there.
pretty much. And I've forgotten the name of your boat.
Ruby Ann.
That's right. Where's the Ruby Ann now?
It's down in Charlevoix, Michigan. That's the last place I heard of it.
Is that right?
Yeah,
That's where we got it from. wasn't it?
that's where it came out of. Or that's where it came out of.
No,
We got it
originally.
out of southern Michigan
Yeah.
when we bought it. We had the boat for 27 years.
And this was all gill net fishing?
All gill net fishing.
You didn't do trap nets or...
Yeah, we did trap nets.
You did that as well?
Yeah, Jimmy Erickson and I and Bucky Badan, Lori Nurse were in it to start with. And
Mm-hmm.
wound up, Jim and I were in it on the end.
The last dogs.
Yeah, but then they closed off all our areas and made it miserable fishing, so
Yeah, and took away your quotas. And
quotas and everything
Yeah.
else on it. So we got out of it.
now, did you get in on that buyout?
Yes, I did.
And was that? Do you think that buyout was a fair deal?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I think they were a little short on the funds that they paid us.
Mm-hmm.
And what they used to decide what your pay was, I didn't think too much of that. They took the figures from the last 3 years, which were the years that we had put together to show what our income had been cut to. And
Right.
that's the ones that they paid us on.
Ah.
They didn't take the years before that like they should have.
Right.
So,
Well, there was a lot of resistance in the legislature against any payment, wasn't there?
oh yes, there was.
Nobody wanted to.
Yeah. I think the governor kind of pushed it.
Who was
towards the
governor
end.
at that time?
Tommy
Was
Thompson.
Tommy Thompson was
Yeah.
still governor? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny because he always came up here and loved it up here.
Yeah.
You'd think he would have had more sympathy for.
I think he was misinformed
Yeah.
more than anything as to what was taking place up here.
Yeah.
Or what the department do. They had a policy of getting rid of the commercial fishery altogether over a sports fishery, and that's...
And what do you think was behind that?
I think it was the people within the Department of Natural Resources that came up with that idea. But, yeah, It was hard.
Yeah, I'll bet it was.
When there's plenty of fish around and we were making a good living at it, and to cut us back like they did, I couldn't see that. A lot of us couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, you'd put your many, many years into it.
Yeah.
Yep. It was real weird to watch that boat go down the lake down here when he's standing right here watching it with me. Because otherwise he was always on that boat.
I'll bet it was.
Yeah. And they had that boat so loaded, and it was in November. I didn't know how they were going to get out in that big lake with that boat that loaded.
Because they were heading to Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah, they had 2 pickup trucks full too, right to the brim of equipment. Everything that
so
we
you
had.
sold a lock, stock, and barrel.
Lock, stock, and barrel.
Nets, everything.
The whole works.
Yeah.
So when it goes, the whole works goes.
Yeah.
Which it did.
That must have been a tough day.
Yeah.
It was, but due to the circumstances, it was all right.
Yeah.
Because we had nothing left anyway, so
Yeah.
I was just glad to get rid of everything.
Yeah.
Our youngest boy worked on the boat quite a bit. And later
And
on... you
what
can
was his name?
Eric.
Eric was the
You
name.
can see the picture over there he had made for his dad last year, breaking ice up in Port Wing to get in to settle it down for the winter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember Eric being on the boat, I think.
Yeah.
Wasn't he on the boat when
He
we
was
were
just
doing
a-
that
He was just a little
for
kid.
troubled waters?
Yeah.
Huh? He was
Yeah, he
about
was
there.
13 or something.
Yeah. Now he's going to be 33.
Yeah, that was about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those trips out there. I think my crew got a little green.
A little green around the edges.
Well, did you?
It was good schooling for the boys. At least they got an idea of what it was like and to go on to school and get something better.
Mm-hmm. So you never really wanted them to go into the fishing?
No, it was too much of a hassle every which way.
Yeah.
And they're all doing pretty good now.
They're all working good.
Yeah.
Marcie, were you fishing at all? Did you go out in the boat at any
Yeah. And I quit many times out there.
time? So what was that like? I mean, what was your job on
What
the
was
boat?
my job?
Yeah.
Boxing nets, picking fish out of the nets and boxing nets, and unless a lawyer came up, and I absolutely refused to pick it, and he'd start yelling at me to get it out of there, and I said, no, no.
Now explain what a lawyer is.
You explain what a lawyer is.
They're freshwater cod.
They're the ugliest looking things.
And they're not a commercial fish that you can.
No, but they
So-
sure are good eating.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, that's a poor man's lobster.
So how do you do? Do you boil it then?
You boil it and then dip it in butter.
Uh huh.
Oh, that's good.
But
Nice firm fish.
Well, what'd you have against the
Oh,
lawyer?
they're ugly looking, horrid, slimy. Ew.
They kind of look like a catfish in a way,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
a cod.
Yeah, and then setting nets, we had more fun. I couldn't always keep it up in the thing in the roller that goes out.
Hmm.
Yeah, we had some good
So
times.
you weren't. I know that Shirley Bodine said she steered the boat
Yeah.
for Bud when they came up
Oh, yeah.
to either pick up the nets, and
No, he had an automatic pilot. He didn't trust me for that.
so you didn't get behind the wheel. Well, it's probably just as well.
Yeah, you bet.
They had a
So-
computer to steer the boat.
So how many times did you quit, Marcie?
Good many times. I always tell her the one time we went out, we were out by the end of Madeline, and it was pretty rough. And he called another fisherman down on the other side and wanted to know what the weather's like down there. And he says, well, it's pretty rough down here. He says, I wouldn't take my wife down here. And you know what he did? We went.
Yeah.
Well, he said, it's all right down here, but... Well, I said, I got my wife on the boat. Oh, he says, I wouldn't take my wife down here.
But we went.
Yeah.
I never got sick, but
Getting back to Buddy, Buddy and I fished together quite a bit.
Did you?
I fished with him on his boat, and he fished with me on my boat. And we were together quite a bit when we were younger.
And where did you guys fish then? Where was your areas?
We fished all over up here in Wisconsin waters.
But I mean around the islands.
Around the islands?
Specifically around the islands. Where did you go?
Well, in the fall of the year, we fished inside between Stockton and Michigan and Outer Island and Wilson, Bass Island.
Mm-hmm.
And through the year, we fished outside of the islands, outside of Devil's Island, Outer Island, Michigan Island, out on the outer banks.
How far out would you go from the islands?
Gosh, I can't remember now, about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes outside of Gull Island,
Mm-hmm.
and about the same outside of Outer Island Light, taking the time. And then outside of Devil's, it was about the same thing. We only made about 10 miles an hour,
Yeah.
so be about 10 miles out.
Right. And you must have had some close calls.
Well, I don't know.
One time
I mean,
we
it seems
got
like-
iced down so bad.
Yeah, we got iced down. We got caught in a storm. It was about 60 degrees above when we went on the lake, and it was about 30 below when we came back in. And we got caught in an awful northwester. It just terrible. And we come back in, when we got in, we had to chop the ice off the boat to get it out.
Is that right?
Yeah. We finally got the back doors open and then got out enough so we could get the boat tied up. And
It was iced down
Yeah.
from the visor right down to the deck. You couldn't see out there.
Oh my God! So how did you navigate back?
autopilot and radar.
Now, when would this have been?
Oh,
When
gosh.
you could, when you were still
Yeah.
docking over where the ferries
Yeah,
are now,
that,
so.
that was back in the 70s,
Yeah.
Right.
someplace.
So where did you keep your boat?
Here in Bayfield, to start with, down at where the ferry docks are now.
Mm-hmm.
We docked there for quite a while. Then over at the Dean's dock. And we fished out of later years, we fished out of Cornucopia and out of Port Wing.
Yeah, you were out there, I think, when we
Yeah,
got up here.
yeah, the Native American fishery came into being, and we had just too much competition down here, so we moved up in that area and fished. Our runs were shorter, had to drive up, but the run with the boat was a lot shorter.
Right.
We could fish right outside of Corning.
So
And
that's where you ended up then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And who else was fishing out of Corning at that time?
Jackie Bono and I.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
That was it.
That was it.
Because doesn't Deanie have
Yeah, Deanie's.
Jimmy's old boat out there now?
He's got his old boat and he's got Jackie Bono's old boat.
He does.
Yeah, he went down and bought that. And he bought the place where Jackie Bono was up there, the building that he had, little fish house on the dock.
Uh-huh.
So that's where he fishes out of. Yeah. It's a good area up there. Get a good blow, it's awful dirty though.
Is it?
Lots of stumps,
You gotta watch
a lot
out.
of current, yeah.
And what were you mainly fishing?
Chubs,
Even up through the end there?
yeah.
I know you couldn't get but just a very few trout.
Yeah.
What about whitefish?
Whitefish we fished a lot, but that wasn't the mainstay. But our chub fishery was our basic fishery.
What about herring?
Yeah, we fished herring. And when the herring really showed up, it was just like overnight. The lake was full of herring.
What time of year would that be?
In the fall of the year. And that was the end of our chub fishery. When the herring showed up, that killed the chub fishery, just overnight. And on the outer banks, the deep water trout got pretty thick in the lake, and that killed our chub fishery outside. So the whole thing fell apart.
Yeah. Now, in the heyday, how many boats were fishing out of Bayfield? And
Oh gosh,
Would
there
you
were
say?
boats all over. I couldn't really tell you. I remember at one time, towards the end, there was 60-some licenses left up here. And it seemed like every other house here in town belonged to a fisherman at the time.
right.
And they were located on quite a few of the islands that they fished on.
Rocky, they were,
Yeah, Rocky and Sand Island and Presqu'île, Madeline, Manitou, Outer Island, Cat Island, Bear Island. There was docks all over and little fish camps.
yeah.
And then a lot of them fished out of Bayfield too. It was quite an industry. There was a few $1 million that were donated to the area here every year
Yeah.
through the fishery.
Oh boy, you've sure seen it change, haven't you?
Oh boy, I guess so. It's gone into kind of paradise up here for tourists.
Yeah.
It's I can't see where it's the answer either. It's you got what, about 2 months, 2.5 months of feast, and then you got what, about 9.5 months of famine.
Whereas in the old days, the fishing was year-round.
It was year round. There was a stable income here.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the logging industry up here. You had the plant down here making door frames and stuff like that, and doors
Mm-hmm.
out of veneering. That hired quite a few people too.
And there was
Bayfield was real healthy at one time.
was the cannery still?
The cannery was still
business?
running. Yeah.
Did you ever work there, you guys?
Yeah, I worked there when I was a kid. I wound up foreman in the warehouse there one time.
Is that right?
Then I drove truck for him one time. Hauling beans out of here, hauling case goods out and raw beans in to get canned on the side.
Okay, I'm going to take a stop here to change batteries.
Oh, we got them too.
Yeah, he was telling him about it. He said they got some hawks up there that's gotten all the crows out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, up on our block. Next to Julian's, they got a pair of Merlin hawks. So back to the cannery. You said you worked there as a kid,
Yeah.
and then that would have been when?
Oh, back in the 40s?
Mm-hmm. And it was beans, right?
Beans.
And where were the beans grown?
They are grown right here. in
Up on the
Bayfield.
hill?
Up on the hill around the different farms. There are a lot of beans raised up here. But a lot of dairying going on at that time too. And
A lot of what?
dairy farming going on.
Mm-hmm.
Darn near every farm up here had 10, 12 cows that they raised, and then they raised beans and the little orchards and stuff along with them.
So was that seasonal work in the beans?
The
in
beans
the
were
cannery?
seasonal work in the cannery.
In the fall and late summer, I suppose.
Yeah. And they get done with the beans, and then the herring would come in, and everybody go down to the docks and work there for their Christmas money.
In the herring shed.
Yeah,
Did
the
you work
herring
there,
shed.
Marcie?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
that I did.
Yeah,
We picked them.
Describe what that was like. What was the herring shed like?
Aha, they would come in with about 10 ton. They'd pull the nets from the boat into the sheds over a table like this, and they'd just keep packing them, and then you just take and clear the head and then twist it like that. And you twist them right out of the nets and into the box until you got the table cleared, and then you start the whole thing over again.
And then what became of them
Then
as the box went down the line?
No, those would stay right there, like right in front of the table, until you got them piled as high as the table. And then the crews from the fishery would come in and take them out and bring you more boxes. And that would go on till sometimes 10 o'clock at night.
Now, were they boxed in ice or salt?
Not there.
What
They were
happened?
just in the boxes yet until they'd get over to the salt shed.
Then they'd be put in the barrels.
Then they'd be dressed and put in the barrels with salt.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, did they ship them out that way or?
No, they stacked them outside, and then repacked them, what they call repack, and
Yeah, I never
through
did
the
that.
winter, and then they'd ship them out that way. They'd clean them up and put them in 100% brine and in jars and little
Oh.
pails and stuff like that.
Oh, I see.
Then from there it'd be shipped out.
So it was a good little industry.
It
Oh,
was,
yeah.
yeah.
That
Kept a
seems
lot of
like
people working all
everybody I talk to seems it worked in the herring
the way.
shed
Yeah.
one time or another.
Yeah.
Did you work in the cannery, Marcie?
Worked in a cannery one night. I just replaced somebody.
I see.
Couldn't go to work that night. That was it.
Snipping beans.
Snipping beans.
Was
That
one
all
night enough?
All I really wanted to. Yeah.
It was kind of tedious work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did have a snipper that the beans run through to snip the ends off, but you had to catch the ones that didn't get.
Didn't get.
Oh,
And
I
that would
see.
run down on a belt. All the women were on both sides of that.
Yeah. You could get kind of dizzy watching them go down the
I'll
belt
bet.
too.
Yeah,
Gee.
but it employed a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
And there's nothing like that now.
no.
No.
In fact, Jimmy and the other people who have the berries and stuff can't even find people to pick the berries
No.
anymore. Nobody wants to do it.
Nobody wants to do it anymore.
So you guys did whatever you had to do to survive
Yeah.
Yeah.
over the years.
We had beans up on the farm. We had raspberries. We had apples,
Strawberries.
strawberries. Yeah.
Now, which farm are you referring to?
The one that McCarty is on now.
Just outside of town.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember you.
Yeah. But,
So how many years did you live there then?
We bought that in 55, and we were there for about 7 years, I think. Something like that,
Mhm.
before we moved down south.
Then you went to the orchard and then you came back and
Mhm.
back to this house
Yeah.
yeah.
where you've been ever since.
Yep.
Been ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the town was quite different then as well. Now, where did the fishermen gather in the morning before going out?
In the morning, go down at the restaurant for a cup of coffee.
About what time of day?
About 5 o'clock in the morning.
The old bakery.
The old bakery, Drunkies. And,
Now, where was the old bakery?
I think it's called Minnie's now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
right next to the brownstone.
Yeah.
Is that brownstone bowl or what do they call it?
Brownstone building.
Which
yeah.
used to be the movie theater.
The theater, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And before that, it was Bayfield County Press.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, they tore the building down, put another one up in there for the theater at that time.
Mm-hmm.
The old theater was where the Oddfellow building
Oddfellows.
is, and Rebecca Hall is.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And Iverson bought that business and built the new theater up where the county press was.
Yeah. And stink kind of fishy in there too, kind
Yeah.
of November.
And that business fell apart. Television came in.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, Wild Rose was the last movie ever shown there.
Yeah, it was.
Remember that day? The
Yeah.
film
Yeah.
broke about 3 times.
Shucks.
Yeah.
So you've really seen a lot of changes downtown.
Oh gosh,
too.
I guess so.
Well, there's no hardware store anymore.
No.
No, there wasn't for a while.
That's happening all over wherever you go. The downtowns are falling apart and becoming trinket shops.
Well, where the bank is and the hardware store was the ball field.
Right.
Downtown, yeah.
Yeah.
Used to play ball down there.
Yeah.
They had a big skating rink down there. The whole block was. a
Yeah, it's too
skating
bad that didn't
Yeah.
survive.
rink.
Yeah.
It changes. It's
Well, I guess that goes for every town though. There's got to be changes.
years back. Everybody used to walk downtown
Yeah.
and back home again. Now you got to drive.
And then you can't find a place to park. when you
That's
do get
right.
there.
Apart. So then you go down to Washburn and do your shopping.
Is that what you do?
No.
Well, we shop down here, but once in a while we'll
Go downtown late at night, but usually most of the cars are off the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to the fishing. Can you remember some other either close calls or moments of good times or highlights of your fishing years?
Well, we've been caught in some awful storms out there, but you just take your time getting back in again.
There goes a squirrel.
And we have spent nights in the ice where we couldn't get through or got packed in. that was kind of exciting. And I remember one time Les Cornell with his boat, Orville Powers with his, and Beaver Bedeen, Bud with their boat. They got caught down below Madeline Island, and the ice pushed in against them, and it really piled up. Orville was pushed right up out of the water. You could look right underneath his boat.
Is that right?
Under the keel of it. And Ever's boat and Cornell's boat were pushed together. They were just shoved in like that, just tight. One, the bow was facing one way, and the bow was facing the other way. They just come together like that, and that was it. Had a 16-foot pike pole, and we couldn't reach the bottom or through the ice with it. You kept working it down, and there was still ice at the end of that 16-foot pike pole. Well, then they got the wood rush down from Duluth, and
Was that an icebreaker?
yeah, and one of the sister ships of the wood rush came up from the Sioux. They were breaking ice up here, and both of them boats got stuck down there in the ice, trying to get them free. Then they had to call the Mackinac up here, and she finally freed up all 5 boats.
How long did this all take?
Well, they were there for about 3 days, something like that. 3-4 days.
Stuck.
Stuck. I mean stuck. There was open water just about out to them. We were out there with our boat, and
But
we
you could.
yeah, we could see them down there. They never came in that night. We could see them down there, just barely make it out. So we decided we'd better take a run down there and take a look. Then we called the Coast Guard cutters, or the station down here.
'Cause there was nothing you could do.
No, we couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
It was impossible. The way the ice was piled up.
Well, did they have food and water?
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff?
they had. We always carried plenty of food on the boat.
In case something
Yeah.
happened. Yeah.
So
There goes that squirrel up the feeder.
geez. Yeah, that.
Well, did you were often on the mainland, Marcie?
Oh yeah.
Did you sit here and worry, or
Oh yeah.
when the storm would come up and he was out there and
Yeah. Till then later in later years, and I had a base station here, so I knew where they were.
you could talk to him then?
Right.
Yeah.
And when the kids were little, I used to stay out on the island all summer until Janice Ann, I couldn't keep track of her anymore. She would either take off in the woods or take off down the dock, and like she's 2 years old, and she wouldn't stop when she'd see you coming. She was afraid of nothing. So I then came back to the mainland and stayed.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
She packed her goods and left the island.
Yeah.
Well, were there bear out there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Huh?
Yeah.
We never had any trouble with the bear out
No,
there.
we didn't.
Never any problem at all. Once in a while they'd be picking blueberries along with us.
Is that right? And who else was out there? What other women were out there, Marcie?
Eleanor, Jim's sister-in-law, and Edith Powers. That would be the 3 of us,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. Edith was a good one for playing jokes.
Yeah? Like what?
She would wait till they got the boat untied. This was usually Cornell that she picked on. Wait till he get the boat untied, and she knew he was heading for town, and then she'd yell at him, I want some cookies, I'll run down, and she'd run down with him. Of course the cookies were all filled with cotton, but there's nothing you could do until they were out in the lake.
She was a practical joker.
Yeah.
Yes, and one time we were just bored. So we took a can of lard or Crisco, I don't remember which it was. We went over to Les's cabin. We greased everything that had a handle on it. Oh dear. And then we went out, he went out that one night and poured salt water right where his head was and his bunk. And the deer were licking on the cabin all night long. Kept them up. Oh, we had to create our own fun.
Yeah. Did you get together and do? Did you get together and do things together, like in the evening, or?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Go down to the beach, build a fire,
Fire and roast marshmallows.
marshmallows and wieners and stuff like that, and eat there.
Sounds like a good life out
Yeah,
there.
It was.
a lot of fun.
Then you'd have the pickup boats coming around every day, either the one from Booth or the one from Bodine's. And you send your grocery list in on one and they'd bring it out on the other. And it was fun.
And now, what's become of the cabins out there?
They're not even there anymore.
They aren't there. They were torn down
They were-
after they. So when did they buy them up from you guys?
They didn't buy it. They
'Cause,
give us an ultimatum, get them off by a certain time. And
yeah, we were living in southern Wisconsin when they told us that. We couldn't get up here to get anything off in the middle of the winter.
So that was that.
that was it. They burnt the buildings up.
Yeah. I've never been able to understand that.
No, neither.
I mean, why not keep them? They're historic buildings.
It was a log cabin,
The
Yeah.
one that Les said was a beautiful little log
Yeah.
cabin.
just one room, but it was, really neat. So I don't know.
That's the way the DNR operates.
Yeah.
They kept my brother's cabin. That was about the best one there. And they burnt the other three up. Cleaned
Yeah,
everything out of them. They had some pretty good furniture, old antique furniture
Yeah.
out there that I would have liked to have gotten out.
Yeah.
But by the time we got back, all there was ashes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
yeah. We had one of the things I always remember. Our oldest daughter was quite sick when she was little, and she would cry and cry. Well, this one night, the lady there was a bunch of the Indian people down farther that were camping and picking blueberries, and she heard her cry, and she came over and she asked if she could hold her and rock her. And I said, definitely you can do that. She took her and she wrapped her up so tight, sat out on the porch and rocked her and was singing in Chippewa. That girl went to sleep and slept all night. I told her she'd come back anytime she wanted. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, there are a lot of Indian families that went out there and picked berries,
Yeah,
pick blueberries. They pick berries on the barrens out here, and then they'd move on the islands a little later on after the berries were done on the mainland.
Mm-hmm.
And there was lots of them out there.
Do they camp out there?
They camped right in Anderson Bay and stayed there, and they even picked cranberries at the end. Yeah, we used to haul berries, correct? We'd haul a boatload of berries off of there
yeah.
a couple of times a week
You would.
into town, yeah. Into the co-op down here, and then they'd sell them down here.
Now, what co-op was that?
Was it a co-op or what?
Yeah, it was kind of a co-op.
What'd they call it?
Yeah, the co-op.
The co-op.
Yeah, it's almost where the condos are downtown. The big ones on the lake there.
Mm-hmm.
Right in that area. Almost right at the end of the street, really.
Yeah. Allwood bought that building and moved part of their lumber business in there, or finishing work in there. But there was a grocery store there, and then they handled a lot of berries that were produced around here years back.
So they'd buy them from you and package them and send them out.
Sent them out, yeah.
Yeah.
The railroad went right up to the building, and they'd load their boxcars right there, and then train to pick them up the next day and haul them out.
So that must have been, because the roundhouse was right where that parking lot is.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Behind the
That's where Trudeau is right
The
now.
Trudeau building.
Yeah.
yeah.
And the railroad track went right alongside of there, between there and the street,
Right.
right down to the side of the old co-op building.
I see. What a difference that was
Yeah.
Boy, it
from
was
now. Too bad there still isn't a train running.
I
You
know.
know, it is. Boy, that'd have been nice for the tourist industry up here now.
It would have been.
Yeah. They could have run down to Hayward and back again and made it quite a trip out of it for them.
Yeah.
All hindsight, no foresight.
In the name of progress.
In the
Yeah.
name of progress, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Well, you've managed to overcome a lot of obstacles throughout your life, you
Oh,
two. That seems to have been necessary for all the, for almost anybody who has been here as long as you have. All right, we'll take a break here. Well, what do you think of what Bayfield is becoming? And
The
what?
tourist industry is all right, but it is not the answer for Bayfield. Bayfield is going to have some type of industry here that can keep the young people in town, and then you'd have a town again. When you haven't got kids around, you don't have a town.
Yeah.
It's and you don't have a good stable income for the town. You've got to keep it year round. And I don't think the tourist industry is the answer. It's a good solution to help, like a shot in the arm, but you've got to have year-round work for people.
And what kind of year-round work could that maybe be?
Uh,
You have any ideas on that?
I think a lot of paperwork could be done up here. Well, you're not going to build locomotives here.
No.
That's out, but I believe there is some industry that you can get up here that you can make a go of. Electronics of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
I think an insurance company could work up here. Because all you need is a computer and a post office, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it don't make any difference where they're located.
Right.
A lot of these industries,
That's right.
or
More high-tech.
Yeah.
high tech of some kind. There's got to be something. If it's looked for, I think it would help out a lot. But I can see Bayfield falling apart more every year.
All that's left is the senior citizens.
Yeah, and they're slowly going. It seems like every time one of the older people dies off here, the house winds up in Minneapolis
Yeah.
as a summer home.
Yeah.
And what's going to be left when we're all dead and gone? You'll have a few people coming up here in the summertime and staying, like around our neighbors here. They come up for weekends and just to get out of the cities, and then they go back down to the city again.
Right.
But, so many homes are going that way.
Well, I know Larry said the other day that now we've gone over the 50% mark of houses that are owned by non-residents.
Oh yeah, I think we're way over it.
So,
But,
Yeah.
and that isn't good,
yeah.
not for the community. We've been in places down in Michigan where the town has completely died.
Yeah. Just a ghost town.
Just a ghost town. All it is a bunch of people that live someplace else that have bought up these homes for a little retreat for weekends and maybe vacations up there.
Right.
There's nobody running the towns, nobody at
No.
all. It's they just sit there. These old mining towns,
Yeah.
logging towns. And that to me is an example of what's going to happen here.
Well, I hope not, since I intend to stay here. Since I moved here, I have a different stake in the community than
Yeah.
when I used to just come and visit.
Yeah.
I've been coming here now for 20 years, and I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of change. Nothing like you guys have, but
Yeah. It's changed a lot.
it was still a town when I first came here.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was.
They've got to diversify. You can't. It just can't go on like it is right now. That's my opinion of it, anyway. By
Mhm.
what I see.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people share your idea.
Not too many local people left.
Right.
And the taxes are going up every year. Ours took an awful jump this last year, and now I can see another jump coming. It's going to push us out of here altogether because we just aren't going to be able to afford this
Yeah.
kind of living up here.
And here, this is a house you've lived your whole life in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it don't make any sense the way it's being run right now. And there doesn't seem to be anybody really looking at doing something to
Change it.
change it or to keep a year-round industry here of some kind to stabilize the economy in town.
Well, I think there are people trying to make that happen in cooperation with Ashland and Washburn and the other towns. There is an effort to try to work together to bring something up here.
Bring something.
Yeah.
But
And I've been involved in this 20-year plan, you know, this task force we've been working on for the last 6 months on. And there's a lot of good ideas that have come out.
yeah, I agree with you. I've worked on 2 of them.
Yeah,
And it seems like a good plan when you start, and when you're done, it goes on the shelf, and that's where it sits.
it's going to take people to implement it. Yeah.
You've got to, yeah. It's no, there's got to be a better effort put towards
Yeah.
doing something up here than
Yeah.
what has been done.
Yeah, I agree.
Even like your restaurants now. If you got people around here, they're going to be able to run year round. And I can't see where investing too much money in a restaurant up here at this stage of the game is. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And what other things can you do? We got a sailboat that we charter. If it were chartered year round, we could make a good living off it.
Yeah, that's right.
But you're working on what, 2 months?
Yeah.
2 to 3 months out of the year, and that's it. And that's the problem with most of the businesses here.
So Dave Nixon handles that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got him and you got Cully that handles the one down here. Sure, it's a nice little business for. They employ a few people in the summertime. But the trouble is, the wages aren't good enough for these people to even live in Bayfield in the summertime and work here. They
That's a
can't
big
afford it.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, housing is a big problem.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And you can't blame the people that own the houses for raising the rent, with the way the taxes and everything
Yeah.
has gone up.
Yeah.
Our water bill has taken an awful jump here in town.
Well, maybe you ought to run for mayor next
Yeah.
to
He tried that once.
Did you run for mayor?
Yeah.
When? What year?
A
Uh,
couple years, a
yeah.
couple times ago.
When Larry got in that year.
Yeah.
Oh, you ran against him?
Yeah. I got beat out in the 3-way split.
Mm-hmm. Who else was running?
Ed.
Oh, right.
That's right.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah, Ed. It wound up Ed and Larry run against each
In
other.
a runoff?
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it's
Were you ever on the city council?
yes for about 12 years or better.
Now, when was that?
Up till last year.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
So you've been grappling with these issues
oh yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah. I could see this coming years ago here in
Mhm.
town. I think a lot of the other older people could see it too.
Right.
That,
And what did the city council accomplish when you're in your tenure? I mean, what can you point to that, aside from squabbling?
I'd say a lot of squabbling, a lot of, well, I hate to say.
No, but did you know, were there certain things that you voted through that you felt were important to get done?
Yeah, there was a lot of issues that I thought could have been done to help the city out, which were ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know. There's lots of things here in town that can be done. If you want a good tourist industry, for one thing we haven't got is parking in town. And there is parking that can be made available here in town. And that's, to me, is ignored.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, it's only for 2-3 months out of the year, but if that's the bread and butter of the people that have the shops downtown, well then that should be looked at and
Mhm.
corrected. You have a lot of streets down there that can be widened out
Mm-hmm.
and turned into parking. which would accommodate a lot of people coming up here. Another thing, you have a lot of RVs coming into town here, and they go back out of town to find a place to stay. Now, these people have money, and they do spend it, and they're ignoring that part of it. They should build the facilities for these people,
For the RV to park.
for the RV parks, and they can do it. They've got the room to do it, and that's ignored. So, I know there's a lot of things that can be done.
Well, let's hope some of them get done,
Yeah.
I wish it would.
you know.
But,
Well, it all seems like things always have to get to a crisis before people are ready to
Yeah.
act.
Yeah.
You know?
You're right.
And
well, everything in town right now is wonderful. Everything's running, a lot of people around, but it seems like it's forgotten when fall comes. And all these people leave and they're here just for that good time part of the season.
we know what Main Street looks like about in February.
Yeah.
You know, January, February.
Yeah.
Like Red and Bill Compton came home for their sister-in-law's funeral. And Red said, I looked down the main street in Bayfield and there was not one car parked on the main street.
Yeah.
That, you said, that goes to show you what's happening up there.
Yeah.
Well, we moved to Florida last year. And the advantages of moving down there is great compared to up here.
Are you going to do it again this coming year?
Yeah. It's,
Do you have a place down there?
we have a place down there,
Now, whereabouts in Florida?
Zephyr Hills.
Where's that?
That's about 40 miles north of
Tampa.
Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
One thing with Florida, you don't pay any income tax. And you're exempt $25,000 on property tax
Mm-hmm.
that you don't have to pay on. So the advantages are pretty great.
Well, does this sound like you're thinking of making a move there for year-round, or?
We have.
Huh?
Well, we're not going to live year
We're
round.
not going to live year-round down there, but we are residents of the state of Florida.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you'll still come here for the
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
for
Yeah.
the summer months and
Well, this is
fall.
beautiful up here this time of the
Yeah.
year, in
Yeah.
summer months, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it's night and day between here and winter.
it is. You can't golf up here in the winter day. I can't take the weather here in the winter anymore either. It's just too cold. I can't get out. I can't shovel snow.
Right.
So really, there's no sense in staying around here.
Right.
And a lot of the people that are moving into Bayfield do the same thing.
Yeah.
They're here and then they're gone.
Yeah.
So, no, there doesn't seem to be any incentive to draw people here either. I don't know what to say about it. It just, something's got to be.
Well, it's a dilemma
It
Yeah.
is.
that the town faces right now, and I don't know that anybody has the solution for it yet. But
No.
I know what I seen in Bayfield here years ago. There was year-round work here.
Yeah.
And there was not only one place to find year-round work, but several of them, which held a pretty stable town. Right through the Depression, it was in pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm.
When the rest of the country has fallen apart, at least there was a place to find work up here and to live. But the way it's going now is just getting to the point where you can't make enough money here to live here.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of even the summer people, summer workers, they live in Washburn or Ashland,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or outside of town somewhere.
Well, they can't find anybody in town to work. There's nobody here to work.
Yeah.
Nobody here to work.
Right.
That's like your farmers, you said, they can't find.
And the
Yeah.
kids all leave, so
Yeah. So your kids have all gone,
yeah.
They're all gone.
Yeah.
And where are they now?
Well, Connie is in Georgia, and she works for the government. Carolyn works at the courthouse in Washburn. Jan is her own boss. She has a, what do you call, 6-pack license and a guide's license for fishing. Jimmy works with the Besmer ski hill down there in the village area. He's kind of a, what do you call, PR man. He goes to all the shows in the cities. Billy runs lights for a company out of Chicago for shows and everything. And he's getting married in England
Oh,
in September. Karen is in Colorado, and she's taking up some schooling for websites on that computer. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. And Eric works for Minnesota Power up in Superior.
oh. So some of them are close.
4 of them are
Yeah.
pretty close.
Yeah.
And you must have a number of grandchildren.
7. 2 great-grandchildren. So, yeah.
So the legacy will continue.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Karen just got married out in Colorado. We were out there. Now we gotta go to England.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we ever get everything all arranged.
When is that going to happen?
September 8th.
Oh,
The wedding, we're leaving on the 6th.
Yeah.
So far, we are in Oslo.
Yeah.
Oslo.
Oslo.
From there, I don't know, we're going to Bergen. And I don't know what else she's got
I
planned.
don't know what she's got planned
Oh.
yet.
We're trying to get a train trip through. The boat would be too slow to
Yeah.
go up the fjords. Be a nice trip, but
Yeah.
if we could take a train up and around and come down through Sweden, then
Yeah.
we could see quite a bit of country in the time that we're going to be there.
yeah.
We fly into London, and then Billy is going to pick us up at London and bring us up to Birmingham. We're staying in Birmingham for a couple of days, and then from there we're going to Oslo, and we don't know where we're going from
No.
there yet.
Now, do you speak Norwegian?
No.
No. You probably did as a kid, though.
Indeed.
Very little.
Very, very little.
Yeah.
When they're talking, I can't understand them.
Well, they all speak English over there now,
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
Well, it sounds like a great trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anything else that we've missed here
Thanks.
along the way?
Not that I know of.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure. There, we'll just get that. Okay, well, tell me about the connection between the Bodines and the Frostmans.
Bud Badine and I are cousins. His mother and my father were sister and brothers.
And what were their names?
Frostman, Mary Badine
Mm-hmm.
and Ole Frostman.
So Mary Bodine was a Frostman.
Frostman.
Yeah, Frostman,
She was Mary Frostman.
yeah.
And she would have been,
Married Bodine. Ever Bodine.
so there wasn't any marriage connection. Just brother and sister
Brother and sister.
Yeah.
connection. Right.
Yeah, they lived
Who
in-
else are you related to around here?
Oh, geez.
Anybody that's named Frostman,
Yeah,
there's some relation.
there's a relation in this whole northern part of Wisconsin that Jelmer Frostman's kids and Ole Frostman's kids. I think that's
Yeah.
about it up here, but there are quite a few Frostmans in
Well,
the Ulu area.
And what would they have been to you?
Cousins,
Cousins?
yeah.
Okay.
Jelmer and my dad were brothers.
Right.
Both of them came from Norway. Then the other ones came from this country.
Right.
Uh,
Who was here first?
Your dad and Yelmer came?
yeah, Jelmer was the oldest, Jelmer, and then my dad. And Carl, no,
Carl's the youngest, I think.
Carl's the youngest,
Mary and Anna.
and Aldrich,
Older, yeah.
that's it, of the kids.
Hmm.
And, oh boy, on my mother's side, there's still relatives up in the Iron River area, and down in Ironwood there's relatives, Michigan. But I can't remember the names of all of them. That was a pretty good sized family.
We had a reunion about 3 years ago for the Evanstead family, and I think we had, 110 out there.
Now, have you created family trees?
Yeah.
Well,
That
they're
was,
scattered all over the country
that
too.
was a bunch.
Yeah, that was out there sharing North Dakota.
Yeah. I keep forgetting about that North Dakota connection.
Yeah. And yeah.
Okay, well, we got that recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's plenty.
All right, thank you again.
Yeah.
You're welcome.